quilts. I've been looking at how they're made and the lessons we can learn from them. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to look at an old quilt, but it's not as pretty. In fact, some may call it ugly. This quilt is so ugly, I'm not even sure which is the front and which is the back. So it even makes it more interesting. So it's not only an ugly quilt, it's an ugly reversible quilt. I also think it's important to note this is a quilt that is a family favorite. It weighs about 22 pounds. So it's kind of like an original weighted blanket, maybe. It is very, very heavy, and it is the blanket of choice, especially when somebody's been sick or just wanting to get warm really quick. It's a heavy, heavy blanket, and it gives a lot of comfort to, it has given a lot of comfort to my family over the years. So let's take a good look at this quilt and see what we can learn from the maker. So each block of this quilt is a 16 patch, and the blocks measure approximately 11 inches. The entire quilt is 46 by 79, so it's almost a twin size quilt. As you can see, there's a lot of plaids and a lot of pinks and different colors that are mixed into this quilt. If we look at the other side of this quilt, the pattern is a courthouse step. So the maker just added pieces and went around in a circle. Some of the pieces are pieced like we've seen in some of the other quilts. And this is definitely a more calming side of this quilt, but the ties are on the other side, which tells me that it is the front of the quilt. The other side is the front of the quilt. This is the back. Taking a closer look at this quilt, you can see that it is machined, stitched together, machine pieced, and it is hand tied, okay? There isn't a real system for tying it. Some blocks have, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they just kind of tied maybe every few inches. But other blocks, they tied much less, and some blocks they tied much more, which I find interesting. Usually there is some sort of system with it, but hey, you know, it got the job done, and that's what's important. You can see this green fabric with the plaid, things I maybe wouldn't have put together, but hey, it's kind of what gives it some charm, right? I guess you could say. On the borders, there's this polka dot print with this kind of cool green print. The borders are hand stitched on and then top stitched, which I find interesting. And the binding is pulled around from the back and machine stitched. So let's look at the other side of this quilt. Like I said before, I'm not sure if this is the back or the front. Because of the tying, I'm guessing this is the black back, but who knows. So this isn't as good of shape. As you can see, there's holes, and mostly where we see wear and tear on this quilt is where the fabric was not cotton. We can actually see complete holes, which exposes what is underneath, which I find really cool because this is a blanket that's underneath, okay? So this quilter took a blanket and created a quilt around it. Didn't use batting for this quilt. Fabrics are really, really neat. This has cupboards or something like that, and baskets. This has some flowers, and definitely is from like the 1930s. Other ones that are solid, and some polka dots and some purple and some, you know, just a mishmash of fabrics. It's definitely a scrap quilt, and very well could just be what the maker had on hand. Another thing that this quilt might be made of is old clothing. So maybe this maker took dresses or shirts or whatever from their children, and it is tattered and in rough shape. And I can see why somebody might think, oh, especially somebody who doesn't know anything about quilts, might throw this out or just discard it. But I think of all the comfort it gave my family over the years, and it is definitely one of those quilts worth keeping. So what'd you think? Pretty cool, isn't it? It's not beautiful, and it's not a showstopper, and the maker just used what they had, but it's still just one of those quilts that we love, that I'll never get rid of, and it will always be available to cuddle up with. interesting story about this quilt. I got this quilt about 15 years ago. It was a discarded quilt at a flea market. The owner of it at the time did not want to drag it home. It was very, very heavy, and he gave it to me. So instead of throwing it out. So it's kind of a cool story, and the fact that this has become a family favorite is also very interesting to me because, you know, who doesn't love this quilt? What can we learn from this maker? First thing that we can take away is that we don't have to purchase batting. We can use a blanket as batting for our quilts. The second thing I want to impress on you is that tying a quilt is okay. You can put the ties in it, you don't have to necessarily quilt it. And the last thing I really think that the maker is trying to teach us is that things don't have to be beautiful to be useful, and they can be cherished whether they're beautiful or not, or considered beautiful or not. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please subscribe if you want to see more. And it really helps support me. Next week, I am going to change my schedule a little bit. I'm going to start posting my videos on Tuesdays from then on. So please watch for my videos on Tuesdays. And because next week is our big election, I am going to be featuring a red, white, and blue quilt just in honor of that. So please get out and vote and have a fantastic week. And I'll see you next week on Tuesday. Bye.